It was the most watched broadcast in the history of the Galactic Empire. Every screen, every interface, every optic socket from the rim worlds to the crystalline cities of the core flickered to life with the same title card: The Final Judgment of the Human Rebel, Jane Doe. A swirl of shimmering alien glyphs danced across the screen, accompanied by a pulse-throbbing orchestral build-up. Galactic citizens paused from their lives. Tentacled nobles in glass palaces, insectoid traders along neon-lit bazaars, even plasma-based life forms paused their oscillations. They all stared. The camera cut to a towering platform inside the sanctum of purity on Kargath Prime. Beneath the vaulted arches of marble and steel floated the prisoner, a human woman, arms restrained by grav cuffs, legs bound with neutron filament. She stood defiant, eyes unflinching. Her shirt, tattered and smudged with dirt, bore a faded yellow smiley face and the words, "Don't worry, be happy." An alien commentator's voice, smooth as silk and just as fake, echoed across the galaxy. "Today," it began, "we purge the last spark of Terran defiance. Let this be a lesson to any who dare challenge the supremacy of the Galactic Empire." From the shadows emerged the executioner, High Commander Varlon Grease, a creature of smooth, obsidian skin and 6-finger-like appendages, each tipped with ceremonial rings. His long, flowing robe shimmered with metals, half-earned, half-bought. His voice cut through the chamber, reverberating like polished thunder. "Jane Doe of Earth," he said with theatrical gravitas, "you stand condemned for inciting rebellion, contaminating pure sectors with human culture, and perhaps most grievously, spreading dangerous ideas like free will and sarcasm." Jane looked bored. Varlon stepped forward, unfurling a scroll unnecessarily long for dramatic effect. "Do you have any last words?" She tilted her head slightly, eyes scanning the camera lens as if peering into every living room in the galaxy. Then she smirked. "Yeah," she said. "You sure this is live?" "Because I didn't do my makeup." Somewhere an alien gasped. Varlon twitched. "That wasn't in the script." "You dare jest." "I dare a lot of things. Like wearing socks with sandals. But here we are." The chamber spectators murmured, confused and intrigued. A few younger aliens had been illegally watching Terran media and recognized her tone. It was called sarcasm, a uniquely human form of defiance that couldn't be predicted by logic matrices. Varlon sneered, trying to recover his dominance. "Then you shall die unrepentant. Let the execution proceed." But Jane wasn't done. "You might want to keep an eye on the clock." "What?" She leaned forward as much as the restraints allowed and whispered into the lens, "I hope your clocks are set. He's never late." The silence that followed was heavy. Varlon waved his primary hand, and the execution device, a beam of molecular disintegration, powered up. Energy swirled above her like a hungry storm. Then it came. A flash of light. A soundless pulse. The Terran rebel was gone. The broadcast cut to a slow, somber drone, displaying the Imperial crest in morning colors. Triumphant music played. Cheers erupted across loyalist planets. Fireworks exploded in atmospheres. On Sector 14's entertainment moon, a group of aliens toasted with synthale. "Primitive species," one laughed. She thought she could challenge the Empire. On the edge of the galaxy, an aging warlord muttered, "One less nuisance." In the Imperial Palace, Emperor Zovloran sipped wine distilled from starlight and smiled in satisfaction. 1 minute passed. 2. Then, at minute 3, without warning, every screen across the galaxy, military, civilian, recreational, even those in cryo-sleep ships, flickered. The Imperial crest dissolved in static. The broadcast hijacked. The feed now showed a black screen with blinking white text. "Time's up, nerds." Panic. Emperor Zovloran spat starlight wine across his advisors. "What is this? Is it some kind of code?" In the sanctum of purity, Varlon froze as his own command console began glitching, icons rearranging into crude drawings of middle fingers and smiling cats. The text faded. A grainy video began playing. It was footage from Earth, old footage. Grainy 1990s, home video quality. A man with a mullet and a red flannel shirt sat on a rusty lawn chair, beside an oil drum fire, holding a beer. "Howdy," he said. "If you're seeing this, I reckon you idiots just killed my niece." He took a sip. "I'd say I warned ya, but, well, I didn't. Didn't think you'd be dumb enough to broadcast it galaxy-wide like it's the damn Macy's parade." He looked off camera and said, "Start the timer, Buck." A distorted clock appeared in the corner of the screen. It began counting down from 27:00. Varlon shouted for security. Technicians scrambled. But every system was compromised. Firewalls melted like butter. Code rewritten. Even language protocols were being restructured to include human slang and curse words. Back on the feed, the man cracked his knuckles. "Name's Buck, by the way. You took Jane. Now I'm talking you." Across the galaxy, systems began failing. First it was minor, lights flickering, vending machines refusing Imperial credits, karaoke machines stuck on Bohemian Rhapsody. Then it escalated. On a military ship orbiting Volterra's Prime, a weapons AI suddenly screamed, "I'm a Barbie girl in a Barbie world," before self-destructing. On Glarnock Station, entire defense grids turned inwards, targeting their own command centers. Sirens blared in unfamiliar tones. "Y'all done goofed." Back at the palace, Emperor Zavlorin gritted his fangs. "Find the source. Terminate it. Terminate Earth." A general stammered, We did that, sire. Twice." Another advisor muttered, "Sir, the humans have something. We're seeing digital signatures predating their internet. The virus is referencing floppy disks." Floppy what? Primitive data devices. Low capacity. Extremely dangerous, apparently. On screen, Buck was roasting marshmallows now. "This one's for Jane. This one's for my pickup truck you disintegrated. This one's for the guy you vaporized 'cause he flipped you the bird. That's just how we wave in traffic, you morons." In a bunker deep beneath Kargath Prime, Varlon panted, surrounded by chaos. His command staff were yelling in dozens of languages. Holograms blinked erratically. A vending machine had caught fire. He stared at the timer on the wall. 18 minutes left. "We are the greatest empire in galactic history," he said aloud, as much to himself as to anyone else. "We've conquered worlds with thought, with plasma, with black hole ordnance. How are we being undone by humans?" A technician turned, face pale. "Sir, it's not just any human. It's her family. There's a whole network." The panic reached religious levels when entire sectors of the empire were overtaken not by violence, but by memes. Glitchy videos of goats screaming like humans. That one video of a kid saying, "I like turtles." A remix of their imperial anthem mashed with the Macarena. "Sir," an aide reported in terror, "we're being rickrolled." The Emperor's claws clenched. "What is a rickroll?" Then came a message, again hijacking all frequencies. Buck leaning forward, pointing a greasy finger toward the screen. "You done took something precious. Problem is, you thought she was alone. You thought we were alone. But humans? We don't take kindly to Empire folks killing our own. Especially not on TV." He raised a beer. "This one's for family. And for Jane. See you in 27, ya lizard-faced bastards." The timer hit 2000 hours. Back in the palace, the Emperor turned to his war council, but the room was empty. Holograms cut. Signals lost. Only static. In the outer colonies, rebellion began to stir. Alien citizens whispered of Earth's madness, its unpredictability, its dangerous sense of humor. A race capable of burning down worlds out of petty vengeance. They had watched a human girl executed. Now they watched something else entirely, something far more terrifying. Human wrath. The countdown continued, and the Empire, for the first time in eons, trembled. The last shot of the section lingered on Jane Doe's empty platform, smoke still rising. A low mechanical hum rose in the background. Something old, something powerful, something waking up, and carved into the metal beneath the scorched execution zone. Words had been burned in Terran script. "Time's up, nerds." 24 minutes remained on the countdown when the Imperial Navy's flagship, Glory of Order, abruptly lost all control over its fleet-wide communications. The crew, an elite force of genetically enhanced tacticians and AI-linked operatives, panicked as their consoles lit up with spinning pizzas, dancing hamsters, and an endless loop of a human man singing, "What is Love?" while head bobbing in the front seat of a car. Admiral Chris Toon, a 12-eyed cephalopoid with a reputation for surgical precision in battle, stared at the chaos around him. Why is the primary combat screen strobing? His comms officer, a shrill-voiced Relaxian, replied, trembling, "Sir, the human virus. It's called Night at the Roxbury." Chris Toon's facial tentacles quivered. "I demand to know what that means." A new message blinked across the control room's central display. "You killed Jane. Prepare to get Janed." The subtext read, "Best viewed in 1080p with headphones." Half the ship's lights flickered into a seizure-inducing light show. The other half simply caught fire. Elsewhere, across the Imperial datanet, systems fell like dominoes. Weapons platforms were randomly activating, but instead of launching plasma missiles, they deployed inflatable lawn flamingos and played snippets from what intelligence reports only described as the Spice Girls. Treasury vaults opened and expelled compressed clouds of glitter. Surveillance drones broadcast a human video titled "How to Basic," where eggs were inexplicably smashed onto keyboards, repeatedly, and with increasing violence. Back in the Emperor's war room, Zob Loren was shouting at his staff, though most of them had taken refuge beneath their workstations or simply passed out from psychological overload. "This is not warfare," he howled. This is insanity." He was right. On the outer colony of Drask 7, a supply depot imploded after its ventilation system was reverse-hacked to release thousands of gallons of canned cheese. Technicians suffocated in dairy. On the border world of Elkaros, a planetary shield misfired and locked the population in a 30-hour rerun of a show called Full House. Entire cities were reduced to gibbering wrecks from exposure to laugh tracks and emotional life lessons. At minute 11:37, the galaxy was introduced to the one individual no alien had anticipated. Uncle Buck. He wasn't what you'd expect from the leader of a cyber rebellion. The live feed, streaming from a modified 2002 Dodge pickup floating in low Earth orbit, showed an overweight man in a mustard-stained flannel shirt, aviator sunglasses, and a worn camouflage baseball cap that simply read, "Y2K Survival Crew." He took a swig of beer and turned toward the camera with the easy menace of someone who'd both invented a weaponized microwave and used it on a possum once. "Name's Buck. Jane was my niece. You vaporized her like she was nothing. And that right there? That was your last mistake." Behind him, something hissed and sparked, an ancient, jury-rigged satellite cluster known as Project Payback. Built in secret during what Buck called the Great DVD Burner Renaissance, it consisted of thousands of decommissioned Earth satellites, tethered together with leftover Christmas lights and running on software last updated during the Bush administration. It should not have worked, but it did. And it worked beautifully. "You aliens keep thinking humans are all soft and squishy," Buck drawled, lighting a cigar with a plasma torch. "But we got one thing y'all don't. Petty, irrational, hold a grudge for centuries rage. And duct tape. Lots of duct tape." With that, he reached into a battered lunchbox and flipped a switch marked "Let her rip." At minute 12:10, over 4,000 satellites began broadcasting the same encrypted signal. Operation Janestorm. Instantly, Imperial networks collapsed under the weight of 300 terabytes of weaponized nostalgia, old commercials, sitcom catchphrases, early YouTube videos, chain emails, and the entirety of Space Jam 1996 version. The result? Catastrophic data hemorrhage. AI systems fried trying to decode the purpose of the phrase "wazawup." On the Empire's diplomatic world of Oris, a statue of Supreme Leader Zaxxon was hacked to constantly sing "Ice Ice Baby" whenever approached. Within an hour, the population had dismantled it in shame. In the Imperial prison moons, political prisoners were freed when their locks misinterpreted Clippy, the Microsoft assistant, as a high-ranking military protocol. "It looks like you're trying to stage a revolution," Clippy chirped. "Would you like help?" They said yes. Meanwhile, a new face appeared across the feed, Project Payback's AI interface, nicknamed Doris, a human-designed voice assistant with the personality of a snarky old librarian and the hacking skills of a rogue NSA agent. "Greetings, meatbags," she announced. "I've been dormant for 127 years and 9 months. But thanks to your empire's theatrical idiocy, I'm now fully awake, and I've been reading revenge fanfiction." Doris infiltrated planetary archives, exposing every embarrassing secret the Empire ever tried to suppress. A dancing Emperor video, memos revealing they invented space taxes as a prank, and confessions from generals who didn't know how to read but faked it using predictive algorithms. At minute 1633, the Empire's primary database collapsed under the combined load of 40 billion search queries. How to apologize to humans. Too late. At minute 1700 hours, Uncle Buck patched in live again. This time, he wasn't alone. Behind him stood a child no older than 10, holding a baseball bat wrapped in electrical wire. Her eyes were serious. Her shirt read, "My sister got vaporized and all I got was this lousy war." "This here's Kayla," Buck said, proud. "Jane's baby sister. Got her mama stare and her daddy swing." Kayla stepped forward. "You hurt my sister," she said simply. "Now, I'm going to hurt your feelings." And with that, she launched a program coded in a defunct Earth language known only as Windows XP Batch. It shouldn't have worked. It worked perfectly. Entire starfleets were shut down as ships confused basic human logic for high-priority emergency override. One vessel, misinterpreting the command Control+Alt+Delete, jettisoned its command staff into space. Another mistook a command labeled Alt-F4 as an order to self-destruct. The Empire had no defense, no protocol for irrational warfare. They were beings of order and logic. The humans brought chaos, humor, and an unholy amount of outdated technology to a knife fight, and they were winning. But it wasn't just Buck and Kayla. Earth was rising. Resistance cells on every continent, previously quiet and off-grid, were activating. Ancient servers long thought junk reconnected, creating a web of hackers, pranksters, former gamers, conspiracy theorists, and cranky grandmas who'd once run Facebook groups about anti-alien mind control. Everyone had a role. Everyone remembered Jane. Even the animals got involved. A flock of trained pigeons from Brooklyn began dive-bombing alien patrols, their tiny backpacks filled with electromagnetic scramblers. The Empire's elite shock troops fell under a coordinated hamster wheel sabotage effort organized by a retired science teacher in Boise. A raccoon named Firewall was last seen disabling an entire planetary shield array using only a spork and a can of baked beans. At minute 23:45, Emperor Zovlorin, red-eyed and trembling, knelt before the feed. "Stop," he whispered, voice cracked. "Please. This is madness." Buck smiled, showing one gold tooth and a glint of something primal behind his aviators. "No, pal. This is Earth." Doris chimed in, cheerful. 2 minutes remaining. "Would you like to schedule your Empire's funeral?" The Emperor tried to speak, but his words dissolved into static. Minute 2400 hours. The stars themselves seemed to quiet. Then the feed blinked. A new image. One final message. Jane Doe. Alive. She stood in a darkened room, flickering light reflecting off her face. She grinned at the camera. "Y'all really thought I was gone?" Her voice was calm, collected, fierce. "You wanted a martyr. You got a revolution." The timer hit 25:00. One last phrase appeared on every screen in the galaxy, burning like a brand into the digital heavens. "You messed with the wrong species." And then the countdown continued, 2 minutes left. The Empire had no idea what was coming next. But they were finally afraid. Really, truly afraid. With only 2 minutes left on the countdown and galactic order unraveling like cheap holiday tinsel, Emperor Zovlorin played his final card. "Cragthul," he hissed, voice trembling with both fury and desperation. "Unleash Cragthul." In the darkest reaches of the Empire's war archives, a hibernation vault hissed open. Sub-zero vapors coiled around a colossal silhouette, armored in jagged obsidian plating and barbed thermal mesh. The beast within flexed, muscle and machine fused together under ancient rites of violence. Cragthul the Annihilator had been forged during the last Scourge War, a living engine of extermination who had ended rebellions by atomizing continents and feasting on the ashes. He towered over 20 feet tall, if you counted the horns. His voice, when it emerged, was gravel dragged across a dying star. "Who has awakened me?" he asked. "Earth," the warden said, teeth chattering. "A human girl." Cragthul's eyes narrowed. "Then bring me to her." The Empire's last hope boarded a prototype dreadpod, careening through jump space like a meteor of divine vengeance. Inside, Cragthul meditated on every battle he'd won, every skull he'd shattered, every race that had dared resist the Empire and been reduced to footnotes. He was legend, a weapon summoned only when diplomacy failed and genocide needed muscle. He landed on Earth exactly 45 seconds later. Smoke coiled from his boots as he stepped through the smoldering remains of a parking garage, his heavy steps cracking the pavement beneath. An old basketball bounced lazily across the rubble. He crushed it without breaking stride. Earth was a war zone, but not in any conventional sense. Instead of coordinated resistance, he found absolute disorder. Shopping carts used as barricades. Traffic cones forming mysterious patterns. Loudspeakers blared distorted Beastie Boys and warnings to watch out for Carl he bites. Cragthul was unimpressed. He moved toward what intelligence reports described as a human defensive compound. It was, in fact, a 7-Eleven. Its front windows were shattered. Slurpee machines hissed softly behind the counter, and bags of Doritos lay scattered like fallen soldiers. A sign out front read, "Welcome to hell. We have taquitos." He stepped inside. A girl stood waiting. She couldn't have been older than 10. Scraped jeans, combat boots too big for her feet, a red hoodie with a hand-scrawl patch that said Jane's Crew. In one hand she held a slingshot. In the other, a cassette player, duct-taped and scratched, but still functioning. It played faintly through a tiny speaker. "You gotta fight for your right to party." The child tilted her head. "You Cragthul." The giant lowered his gaze, surprised. "And you are a decoy?" "Nah," she said. "I'm Kayla, Jane's sister." He stared at her, silent, then laughed. It was a low, grinding sound like collapsing buildings. "They send a child to face me? This is how Earth dies." Kayla shrugged, popped a bubble with her gum. "Guess you're not good with surprises." The lights flickered. Cragthul turned, just in time to see a bucket suspended over the door frame tip over. Its contents, glitter, honey, and about 4 dozen googly eyes, splashed over his armor. He roared, more offended than injured. Primitive tricks. Kayla raised her slingshot and nailed him square in the face with a rubber ball bearing. It bounced off his helmet, leaving a little red sticker behind. It read, "You tried." Cragthul's rage burned brighter. "You dare strike me?" "Yup," she said, then dove behind the counter as a pressure plate triggered. A dozen Mentos dropped into a stack of shaken soda bottles, which erupted in fizzy geysers that blinded the monster for several seconds. Cragthul bellowed, stumbling, swiping at the air. Somewhere in the ceiling, a loudspeaker crackled to life with an automated voice. "Welcome, Galactic Tyrant. You have triggered Earth's Advanced Defense Protocol. Home alone too." He snarled. No more games. But it was too late. The floor collapsed under him, plunging Cragthul into the basement, an abandoned arcade converted into a minefield of booby traps. He crashed through a ring of pinball machines, each one lighting up and playing distorted jingles of 90s commercials. Kayla dropped in after him, landing lightly, slingshot ready. "See, you guys don't get it," she said, advancing. "You keep thinking strength means armor and firepower and scary war chants. But humans? We're a different kind of scary. We're petty. We're creative. And we really hold grudges." Cragthul lunged. She leapt aside, bouncing off a pile of beanbags and landing behind a rusted arcade cabinet. "You killed Jane," she said. "You thought that'd scare us. Nah, it just made us mad." Cragthul tore the cabinet in half, but Kayla was already gone, ducking through a side door labeled "Employees Only." He charged after her, bursting into what used to be a break room and was now filled with wires, batteries, and human tech kludged together by the sheer stubbornness of frontier teenagers. In the center was a TV. CRT flickering. It blinked on. Jane. She smiled, somehow both tired and triumphant. "Hey, Craggy. Hope you're enjoying your visit. My sister's been dying to meet you." Kayla popped up from behind a stack of cushions, holding a remote. "This button," she said, "makes the lights go real flashy." Cragfell sneered. "You think blinking lights will stop me?" "Nope. But the disco ball? That one's for Doris." In orbit, the rogue AI Doris picked up the signal, triangulated Cragfell's position, and activated Protocol Boogeyman Begone, a targeted hacking virus designed to overheat every piece of integrated tech Cragfell carried. His armor began to seize up, plates locking into place, servos twitching as contradictory commands flooded his system. He staggered, confused, as his own suit began playing YMCA at maximum volume and forcing his limbs into synchronized choreography. "What is happening to me?" Kayla was already walking away. "Your empire thought you were unstoppable," she called. "But turns out you're just another over-engineered chump with bad taste in music." He collapsed, systems fried, armor sparking, stuck in the middle of a forced half-split. The last thing he saw before losing power was Kayla striking a pose, surrounded by pulsing lights, as "Staying Alive" blared from the speakers. Outside, across the shattered cityscape, Imperial drop pods were touching down. Too late. The resistance was already waiting. Teenagers armed with hack drones and paintball cannons. Grandmas with flamethrowers made from garden hoses and propane tanks. Dogs in tactical harnesses, trained to chase only purple-skinned aliens. Across rooftops, hangars, and forgotten alleys, humanity had risen not with discipline, but with fury and glitter bombs. And they were winning. Doris broadcast the footage live. The galaxy watched in awe as Cragfell, the unkillable nightmare, was hauled out of the 7-Eleven by a squad of 12-year-olds riding skateboards. In the palace, Emperor Zavlorin's jaw hung open. "Where's our army?" he croaked. "Gone." Defections were spreading like wildfire. Ships were surrendering, not for military defeat, but sheer confusion. Some were joining Earthside just to avoid further exposure to Rick Astley. As for Kayla, she stood atop the ruined convenience store, looking out over the horizon, walkie-talkie in hand. "Buck," she said. "Crag's down. I repeat, the big guy's doing the robot against his will." Buck's voice came crackling in. "Hot damn. That's my girl." The timer hit 26:45. 1 minute and 15 seconds remained. But the Empire had already lost. Not through superior firepower. Not through strategy. Through defiance. Through a little girl with a cassette tape and a slingshot, carrying the fury of a planet that didn't take kindly to losing one of its own. Through the chaos only a species like humanity could summon when properly provoked. And as Kayla looked toward the sky, toward the stars that once seemed so far and cruel, she smiled. Because it was their turn to tremble. The final seconds ticked down. Across the stars, the Galactic Empire stood silent, paralyzed, not by weaponry, but by something infinitely worse. Shame. Fear. A dawning realization that for all their power, for all their endless fleets and genetic mastery, they had lost. Not to military might, but to a girl in a hoodie, a drunk uncle in orbit, and a species whose defining trait was never knowing when to quit. The Emperor's hands trembled as he gripped the edge of his war throne. His once flawless cape now dragged across the floor, torn, trailing the soot of his collapsing dominion. Screens blinked around him, each broadcasting a new horror. An elite death squad surrendering to a marching band of kazoo players. An entire planetary garrison overwhelmed by prank calls rerouted through time loops. The Imperial Treasury hacked to reallocate funds into crowdfunding campaigns labeled "Buy Earth More Snacks." And then the countdown ended. Midnight. No explosion. No great shockwave. Just silence. For one heartbeat, Emperor Zavlorin believed it had all been a bluff. Then came the signal. The feed crackled to life with Jane's face, no longer the captive, no longer the martyr, but the survivor. Her eyes met his through the screen, calm and impossibly human. "You killed me," she said. Or thought you did. Vaporized body. Not a soul. Zavloran stood, unsteady. This cannot be. We saw you disintegrated. Decoy, she said with a half-smile. A little trick we call misdirection. While you were celebrating, we were infiltrating. Behind her, the view shifted. The Imperial Core. The jewel of the Empire. Once considered impenetrable. Now lit with human graffiti, smoke curling from its towers. The main plaza broadcasting Bill and Ted's excellent adventure on loop. I was never alone, she continued. You didn't kill me. You woke us up. He fell to his knees. A soft voice chimed in over the feed, Doris. Galactic neural relay has been inverted. Imperial AI hierarchy deleted. Control functions now rerouted to decentralized Terran network. He blinked. What does that mean? It means, Jane replied, we're not just winning. We're rewriting you. All across the Empire, the changes rippled. Statues crumbled. Protocols collapsed. Laws meticulously enforced for centuries were voided in seconds. Entire fleets stopped receiving orders, and some began following new ones. Earth's kind. In orbit, Buck leaned back in his zero-gravity recliner, taking a satisfied pull from his beer. He watched the data cascade unfold across the galaxy, his battered truck's console lighting up like a Christmas tree on Red Bull. Well, he muttered, ain't that poetic? Kayla's voice came through the comms, sharper now, battle-hardened. Uncle Buck, Jane's alive. He paused, stunned. Come again. She tricked him, pulled the OL switcheroo, said she had help from some retired illusionist, a stage magician from Vegas. Kayla's voice cracked slightly. She never left. She was here the whole time, leading us. Buck wiped at his eye and laughed, the sound filled with relief, pride, and a tremor of awe. Damn, that girl's got more grit than a desert road. Back on the ground, in the ruins of what used to be an alien barracks, Jane met her sister. The hug was instant, fierce. Words couldn't fit in the space between them. They didn't try. Kayla clung to her like a lifeline, tears streaking dirt across her cheeks. Jane held on just as tightly. I knew you weren't gone, Kayla whispered. I knew you'd raise hell if I was, Jane said, ruffling her sister's hair. Around them, the new alliance, the resistance, the rogue elements of the Empire, and the unexpected champions of Earth, moved to secure peace. But it wasn't an occupation. It wasn't conquest. It was liberation. Every planet now had a choice. The imperial regime was finished. Earth didn't claim thrones. It offered autonomy. Culture, chaos, freedom. And yes, probably pizza. Cragthul, wrapped in space-grade zip ties and sporting a glittery "I lost to a kid" sticker, was being escorted by an elderly human woman and a raccoon. He no longer struggled. His spirit was broken, not by defeat, but by the sheer absurdity of it. They didn't kill me, he muttered in disbelief. They danced on me. Jane passed him, nodded once. Next time, try less murder. More snacks. He blinked at her, unsure if she was mocking him. She was. Thoroughly. Back in the Emperor's palace, Zavloran sat in the dark. Everything he'd built turned to ash. The seat beneath him began to vibrate. Then Doris spoke. Auto-evacuation initiated. Welcome to your new assignment, Earth-based sanitation. Congratulations. You've been demoted to janitor. No, he whispered. Yes, she chirped. And you're reporting to Brenda. She's from New Jersey. She does not take sass. The Emperor screamed as the floor beneath him dropped, sending him into a stasis pod aimed straight at Earth. In the sky, satellites rearranged, forming words visible across entire hemispheres. The Empire has fallen. The party begins now. Fireworks burst in the upper atmosphere, hacked from decommissioned warheads. Music followed, bouncing from station to station. Queen, Nirvana, Beastie Boys, Aretha Franklin. An unfiltered, uncurated chaos of Terran identity broadcast across the stars. Jane stood atop the remains of an old alien watchtower, her arm around Kayla, looking out over the new dawn. The stars above shimmered not with fear, but with hope, and maybe a little confusion. What now? Kayla asked. Jane smirked. Now we do what humans do best. Rebuild. No, she grinned wider. We throw a barbecue. Then we rebuild. Kayla laughed, tired and happy. You think they'll like Earth food? They'll learn, Jane said. Or they'll cry trying. Down below, Uncle Buck had already started hauling out a grill from his pickup's bed. Alien diplomats in stunned silence watched as he slapped raw meat onto the flame and shouted, "Who wants ribs?" Jane stepped forward, raising a flag over the former empire's capital. It wasn't a flag of domination or victory. It was a T-shirt stretched out on a stick. Her old shirt. The faded yellow smiley face. Don't worry. Be happy. And beneath that grin, across every screen still functioning in the known galaxy, for final words appeared. This is our time. The story wasn't over, but the Empire was.